So the vision of Plum Village centers is to create a kind of center of resistance. Actually, I see every day here that we come for sitting meditation, for walking meditation, for eating meditation is an act of resistance. I see the I-15 from the monk's residence, and I see all day long, even in the middle of the night, the cars and trucks driving back and forth on the interstate in the distance. And I know that sometimes I am in a car driving on the I-15. So it's not to judge, but it's for the sake of awareness. I'm very aware that while I'm here in the monastery, if I can avoid getting on the I-15, I do my best to do it. I do my best to walk and not get lost in my thinking, because I know that that is the way of the world. And if I learn to just take a step and be fully in contact with the earth, breathe fully, be fully aware of my in-breath and my out-breath, that is an act of resistance. I'm no longer allowing myself to be a cog in the machine. So this is something, and the thing is that we are here for 3 months, many of us, and it's very easy to take for granted what is here. We are co-creating this space of practice together. It's not only the monks and nuns. We are all doing it together, and one aspect of Plum Village practice is that every season we sit down and we look at our schedule, and we say, how do we want to live the next few months of our lives? And sometimes we move walking from the morning to the afternoon. Sometimes we have exercise in the morning or in the afternoon. Sometimes we have only, we've tried having breakfast and lunch only and not having dinner. We've tried sometimes just having one big brunch. Sometimes we've had almost no classes. Sometimes we've had 5 classes per week. The point is that we go back and forth, but the community sits down. The monastics sit down. Monastics, it means those of us who live here long term. And we look at our schedule and we make suggestions. And even if we're a lay friend and we're a long-term resident, we can make suggestions and we can change the schedule. And some would say, well, can't we just eventually find the perfect schedule and just stick with it? But I think that misses the point entirely. The point is that as a community, we look at our life and we see what nourishes us, what gives us joy, what gives us lasting happiness. And we make a decision. We want everything that's in that schedule to nourish our joy and nourish our happiness. And so, but if we just come to the monastery and we live here a few months, it may look like, oh, I gotta just follow the grind, the daily grind of the schedule. And I think it's really, that's unfortunate if you have that attitude, because actually, of all the people in the world here in the monastery, you are under the least economic pressure of almost anyone in the world. We have created a situation here where we support people in their practice. So you don't have to think about food to eat, where you're going to sleep, and I'm the same, So it's not, and we're all doing it together. It's not like the monastics are providing that, and you're consuming it, but rather we are doing this together. If you're not here, then the monastics cannot be here. So we are all co-creating this space. And when I read in the life of the early Sangha of the Buddha, I see the same kind of situation. The Buddha was looking, and he was even more bold in having a mobile monastery, traveling and getting alms, begging for food from the villages. And the monks, instead of having just, we have our precepts, but we also have the physical boundaries of Deer Park and the boundaries we declare for the Rains Retreat. The monks often didn't have physical boundaries, they just had their precept, the body. And their precepts is what protected them and gave them a space of practice, even in the midst of the villages, in the midst of the marketplace, or in the wilderness of forests. So that is the spirit of Buddhism for 2,600 years, is a kind of resistance to the machine and the conventions of society. But we also have our own conventions in a community of resistance. And we have fine manners, we have ways of relating to each other. And those ways of relating are for the purpose of growing our happiness. I see a lot of the suffering I experienced in life was because I didn't understand how my words, my thoughts, my bodily actions can make the other person suffer. And even in the community as a monk, I often didn't see that. But as my practice grows deeper, as I learn how to expand my awareness so that it includes other people's experience as much as possible, then I learn the beauty of the kind of fine manners and just simple gestures of respect, like just joining your palms when you see somebody and bowing. It's so beautiful to stop in your path and bow. So when I see somebody doing that, I feel so touched. I don't ever think, oh, that person is bowing out of respect for me. I feel that person is showing their love and their care. And that's why our practice in Plum Village is then to join our palms and bow back to that person. Even if we are a very high monk, if you see Hua Tung Phúc Tin, who is very, very high venerable, and if you walk by him and you walk up to him and you bow, he will also bow to you. In many places, the monks wouldn't do that. You bow to them and they expect you, that is the culture, that you bow to the monk, but the monk doesn't bow back. But Thai created that space where we see this beautiful exchange happening, and we don't see a hierarchy in that moment. So this is the spirit of, we already see in fragrant palm leaves.